I would say the biggest challenges as well was, of course, what happened in 2024, how to balance between the role of you serving the profession as well as serving members of the public. The sexual harassment claims that came out also painted our legal profession in a very bad light, that we need to reflect and look at how do we resolve those issues. Because we cannot be talking about gender-based violence and SGBV at a national level, yet we cannot deal with the menace at this level. And also the question of how well you can do mentorship. I think that's the time people were saying they don't want mentorship, they want money. So, but you see, the reality is you have to balance those interests. And I was reflecting, I keep saying the legal profession is just like the national landscape. We have very many educated, well-articulated young members joining the bar, but there's no opportunity. You see, I used to tell government, unless you hire, where are we going to get the opportunities for these people? In fact, a challenge I used to tell the Attorney General's office until she advertised, because I said, unless you pick from the legal profession, where are they going to get jobs? Because when the judiciary picks a number, the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, the AG's office, you also give hope to a lot of the young people who are being churned in different universities to have hope to get jobs. Because the reality is we have a large youth bulge, and it's not just a problem for the national government. It's also a problem in this particular council or in all other councils. Because unless you're able to meet that difference, then it's still a problem. And I would say that I think also mentoring different people is also, I would say, a blessing and a challenge, because I have this policy. I mentor people who come to me because there are people who have also a, arm's length policy. So I am open to mentoring those who are open to coming to me, and that's the policy that I always adopt. But I think those are challenges, yeah.
Thank you so much. Maybe just a follow-up question. Now that you've been in that position, and we've seen you're the second out of 53, as Tess has told us, what can women leaders like yourself and all of you here today, including the women rights organizations like FIDA Kenya, do to ensure that this is not a celebratory moment that, wow, we have a first female in ABCD, such that it just becomes a norm and it is sustainable?
Well, I've been a member of FIDA from university, and I think maybe that's where FIDA should also do a bit more of hubbing, picking more members from university level, because I can say I'm loyal to FIDA because they picked me when I was still, I didn't even have a paper. I was still a student. And I can say what students like going to eat, and going to eat in nice places. FIDA introduced me to nice places at an early age. And then meeting also amazing women that now you see they have risen in the ranks, CJ and the former DCJ, Dr. Nancy Baraza, amongst others that you'd get to meet only in FIDA events. FIDA did a report saying they have served over 10,000 clients in 2024 alone. While its current agenda includes GBV response and criminal law reform, SGV, and emerging forms of technology-facilitated violence, and they have been doing a lot of advocacy. The question is, how do we turn the victories we have won into systems that cannot easily be undone? I remember having a very big spate between certain senators as I was supporting the the 2/3 gender bill that is being advocated by Honorable Veronica. And they were saying that women should just go to, the ballot and fight it like anyone else. That the president has recognized that violence is an issue and they are going to deal with it and we should look into it. And I was like, I got tired of being diplomat, and I just told the senator, be realistic. If you are one of the chief goons who has been caught, carrying goons here and around, and the president has not dealt with you, how will the president deal with the issue of goons in this country, which is a huge barrier, particularly for women to be able to earn or fight for elective positions? I think we need to focus on how we can change systems. The first two-thirds gender bill, I was still in FIDA Kenya leadership when I can say FIDA mlisalimia MPs, or you facilitated kusalimia ya MPs. Why? Because for the first time, FIDA was telling every woman to call their member of parliament and tell them to go in and vote for that bill. We even had men standing outside the corridor. And they were so angry that FIDA, because of FIDA's campaign, this happened. I think we need to bring such aggressive campaigns for institutional and policy changes so that things can actually work. Because we have gotten used to, from the decision by the Willy Mutunga bench to date, two-thirds is a progressive issue that keeps being pushed every single life of the parliament. And so unless there's a different aggressive method that we can actually have institutionalization, it's still a problem. We need to move from individual victories to systematic change. We win this case, we celebrate, yes, we have won this case, but what has it changed? Has it changed a practice? Has it changed a policy? Is there a budget change? And has there been people held responsible that there's behavioral change? We need to start from even the budget making process, because until the Human Rights Day, where women were tear gassed, you saw the peers coming to comfortably respond and say things were okay. Until the backlash from the international community is when now they quickly set up the Presidential Task Force on femicide and GBV to now deal with the issue as a response to the outrage. And for FIDA is to push that now that there is a document, what policies and has it been budgeted into for the next, even as we have the supplementary budgets, people should not give you promises for the next election. This current sitting presidency, are there changes or institutional policy changes? Secondly, we need to become more data-driven. We need to know what's actually happening to women throughout the profession. And this is a challenge, I would say, to FIDA to work with LSK. Because I've given data and analysis before, but it's for studies. IAWL, amongst others who are doing studies. How much are we investing to put studies to analyze? Yes, if a majority of women are coming into the legal profession, who first finish the law degree, how many join the legal profession, then how many stay in the legal profession, and why do they leave the legal profession? Is practice difficult? I've had sessions with single mothers who are running law firms, and the challenges that they're having and a lot of support they need to be able to run those law firms. Because you're thinking, if you're not at the firm is not running. I had a fellow FIDA member who joined the bench, and she used to make fun and tell me, Faith, when we go for this retreat, I lock the door and I go home. And that I lock the door and I go for the retreat. And the reason that pushed me into a partnership, or I thought about a partnership, because at that younger age, I thought, if I get pregnant, what happens to the farm? Will you be able to afford an associate who can run the farm? If you can't afford, what happens? And particularly now that FIDA has been cracking down on quacks, you can't leave your farm to a clerk to run.